So, with all of your clients and all the work that you've done, what are some of the biggest or most common obstacles that you've found with public speaking?
Okay, so there is a lot. I'm going to start with most people speak to inform, and a lot of the times, how what that translates into is, and a lot of the people that I work with are subject matter experts at what they do. Just, I'm sure, like many of your SWE members are subject matter experts at what they do, right? And so there's this tendency when they're trying to communicate, for example, in a presentation setting, there is this tendency to inform and create what I call this fire hose of facts, right? So, zzz, like a fire hose. There's so much verbal, what I call verbal vomiting, right? There's this, here's everything I know about the topic. Here's all the details about the topic. And so how it lands, especially as you're speaking to more and more senior leadership, there's this tendency that they don't necessarily want to know all the details, and starting in a place that doesn't flow. So there's no logical flow to it. And as a result of that, people get confused, right? So for example, when you are writing reports, right, that many of your members would probably be familiar with this, when you're writing a report to management, let's say, right, to senior leadership, right at the beginning, there's the section in any typical report. That section is the executive summary, right? The executive summary right at the beginning. And even in college, when you write these reports, right, at the beginning, there's the executive summary. And then later it comes all the details, right? So why? And I ask my clients the same question. So why do we have this section at the beginning called executive summary? Because the people that are reading the report, most likely they're busy people, and they may not have time to read all the details. So they're going to say, what's the bottom line, right? What is the bottom line here? And that's usually what's communicated in the executive summary. Now, when we parallel that and translate it back to verbal communication, for example, in a presentation setting, the first thing we're going to do is get really clear on our message. And so the obstacle, to answer your question, is not being trained in how to give a good presentation. And believe it or not, and for some reason, this goes over many people, people don't realize this when I say they go, oh my God, that's so true. Is speaking and the ability to public speak is a skill like any other skill. For example, let's say driving a car, right? I mean, I'm sure you drive a car, right?
Yep.
Most people drive a car, right? And in order to be able to, freely drive on the road, you need a license, right? And so in order to pass that license test, you got to receive a lot of training in order to feel confident enough to go, oh yeah, now I can go for that driver's license test, right? I have the skills to be able to drive on the road. Or playing a musical instrument. If you've never played that musical instrument and you've never been trained properly to play that musical instrument, and then here I roll in this musical instrument in front of you, let's say a piano, or give you a guitar or something, and go on, play for us, play this beautiful song for us, right? And you've never been trained. When you play, of course, it's going to sound terrible. And of course, you're going to not feel confident. You're going to feel really nervous because you've never been trained. Now let's parallel that back to public speaking. If you've never been trained on the skill, of course you're going to be terrible at it. Like I was when I was a computer programmer. I'd never been trained in speaking. So the process of being trained well is really the invitation here, which is why we're having this workshop in the first place, is so that people can come and start to learn and start to be introduced to it in a way that perhaps they haven't looked at in a nuanced way. And so the biggest obstacle is not being trained.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you said, it's like imagine trying to be an engineer without taking higher level calculus, it's just you just don't have the skill. Uh,
Right, right,
so obviously like without the basic skill, obviously you're not going to be good at it. But
right.
what you can be. I think that's what you're getting at.
Right, exactly, exactly. It's a learnable skill, right? And
Exactly.
we can go to the nth degree. We can go high level, nuanced, very, very detailed level, depending on what level of mastery that you want and depending on how hungry you are in wanting it. But number one, first and foremost, you have to want it, right?
Yeah,
It's like I can't force you to learn the piano. I can't force you to learn to drive. And it's not about, oh yeah, I want to be a great driver. That's not the motivation. It's, well, why do you want to learn to drive? Well, so I can have the freedom, so I don't have to rely on my mum and dad to drive me around, right? So I can go and have the independence. So that's going to be your motivation, but you got to want to learn it. You got to want it in the first place. And so, does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that everyone's motivation is different. Some individuals might want to focus on just being able to present information and their own work succinctly and clearly in front of their team, while others might be, like you said, might want to focus more so on presenting to senior leadership, which I do think is a slightly different path. But I
Right.
hope that, at our event, we will kind of tackle everything and everyone will kind of get a little taste and an idea of what they would like to move forward with.
Yes.